Hello everyone. Today we're looking at how to make a divination lamp with mercury. And we're going to be looking at this from a 16th century magical perspective. We're going to be looking at one of my favorite topics, which I love to go into. I can never get enough of it. Today we're going to be looking at the 3 books of occult philosophy by Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa, and we're going to be looking at a divination lamp for mercury. So this is going to be a really good video. I'm actually really excited about it. You know, scrying with fire, divination by fire. This is something very ancient, and it's found in every magical tradition around the world. And it's something that we see all the way back in the Greek magical papyri, and it probably goes back to prehistory, honestly. You know, when you're sitting around a fire, it's a natural tendency to kind of get lost in the flames, to enter into kind of a meditative state. So I love sitting around a fire. I love it. It's one of my favorite things, especially when it's cold outside. I love building a fire. And, you know, yeah, it's a tendency when the fire's really going well, when you sit around the fire, to kind of get lost in the flames. And think of the symbolism of enlightenment. You know, we see through light. Light is what gives us the ability to see. And what happens in the darkness? We're blind. So it's very interesting practice, and it overall goes into pyromancy. It's a part of pyromancy. And you have aeromancy and geomancy and hydromancy, you know, divination with the 4 elements. By the way, yesterday I released a Patreon video, or I put up a Patreon video, and it was an hour-long video on how to practically work elemental magic. Ways of working with elemental magic, really drawing on, you know, my experience over the years working with the 4 elements. And there's so much that you can do with it. Everything from floor washes to all kinds of things that you can do with elemental magic. In fact, that video, it's on Patreon. That's going to be the video that if I ever get asked about how to work with elemental magic, that's going to be the video that I recommend people go to. And it's not a topic that you really see a lot on. I've purchased books on the subject. You don't get a whole lot. You definitely don't get a lot on YouTube or anything. So I'm very happy with that. So by the way, I just released a bunch of older Patreon videos. So if you go to my YouTube and you suddenly see a whole bunch of new videos, that's because those are Patreon videos that are over a year old. So the way that I'm doing this is every other video is for Patreon. It does take a lot of study, a lot of work to do these videos. And you know, like the video I did yesterday, it was an hour long. Well, guess what? I messed up on my video. It was actually technical difficulties that I was having. I had to stop and I had to redo it from the beginning. So it does take a lot of work to make these videos. So I really appreciate those of you that are subscribed to my Patreon. It really means a lot. If you want to see the other half of my videos, or if you want to support what I'm trying to do here, then please consider subscribing to my Patreon. It really means a lot. It's essentially buying a cup of coffee, or a beer once a month. But it really helps me out. It really helps me to put my focus on making this content. So it really means a lot to me, my Patreon subscribers, And people, all the money that people spend on magic books and magical tools and equipment, paraphernalia, it really means a lot, those of you that go to support my Patreon. And of course, any videos that are over a year old will be released to everybody. But this is a video for everyone on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere that I am. And today, this video for everyone, I'm talking about how to make a divination lamp of Mercury. So I'm really excited about that. By the way, Mercury is actually in retrograde right now. It goes direct on Sunday. So in 4 days, Mercury will go direct. But me personally, I would wait till Mercury goes to where it's no longer in retrograde to make this lamp. I don't think anything bad is going to happen. But at worst, you may not get as clear of a divination while Mercury is in retrograde, which again, as I always say, that's for you to decide through your own practice and experience what works for you. Some people may say that it doesn't really affect anything. So today we are going to be looking at this in my favorite topic. We're going to be looking at the 3 books of occult philosophy. And if you have a copy, then you go to chapter 29. Also, to support my work that I'm doing, I need to put up a commission link. If you purchase the book using the commission link, I do get a commission on that, which also helps my work. So I should probably get that as well and post it up. So if you have a copy of the 3 books of occult philosophy, if you go to book 1, chapter 29, what things are under the power of Mercury and are called mercurial? So the 3 books of occult philosophy, it was written around 1509, 1510. So it's from the early 16th century by Henry Cornelius Agrippa. And Agrippa himself, I don't think he saw himself as an innovator. He was really focused on looking back. Agrippa was from the 16th century, 500 years ago. But Agrippa in the 1500s, he was looking back to what he considered the ancient practice of magic. He often draws from Pliny the Elder. He often draws from Cicero and Ovid and, from these classical writers. But today we're going to look at the things of Mercury, and then I'm going to show you, we're going to look at a couple of other chapters, and we're going to look at how to construct a divination lamp of Mercury. Why Mercury? For one thing, I love Mercury. It's always been my favorite, I'd say, planet. And Mercury is associated with divination, among other things. You see it in the Key of Solomon. It's right there, on the days and hours of Mercury, works of divination. Mercury is very much associated with give and take, with duality. You see the caduceus wand with the twin serpents. This swift-footed god is associated with transaction. What is communication? the god of communication or the planet of communication. What is communication? Communication is the movement of ideas. Okay, there's a person speaking.
Hello, Moto.
No, shut up. Sorry about that. All right. What was I going to say? Communication is a movement of ideas. It's a person speaking and a person listening. It's a transfer of ideas, communication. Mercury is associated with commerce and business. What is business or commerce except the movement or transaction of goods and money, or services and money? So transactions, communication, travel, which is movement from place to place. Mercury is all about polarity and moving from one thing to the other. So anyways, let's get to this. Chapter 29. What things are under the power of Mercury and are called mercurial? Things under Mercury are these. Amongst elements, water, although it moves all things indistinctly. Amongst humors, those especially which are mixed, as also the animal spirit. And again, we're reading from the 3 books of occult philosophy. This is from the 16th century. So this is Renaissance magic. This is the great classic of occultism that continues to influence us to this day. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn drew a lot from this. Amongst tastes, and with that you can get into food magic, working with different foods. Everything can be magical, from the color of clothes that you wear, to the bracelet that you wear, to what you have hanging from your rear view mirror. Sleeping, when you go to sleep, that could be magical for communication or divination, dreams. And you have these sleep temples and sleep incubation, even in ancient times. Sleeping, eating. You could use foods or teas imbued with certain properties, using correspondences, or in this case, tastes. And of course, sexual activity. So things that you do anyways, like eating, sleeping, sex, all of these things, the clothes you wear, all of these things could have a magical power. So magic is something that imbues every aspect of life, or can. And everywhere you look, you see your intentions. Everywhere you look, you see the things that you're trying to bring into your life. Anyways, amongst tastes, those that are mixed. Various, strange, and mixed. So, you have something that is sweet and bitter, or sweet and salty, or spicy and sweet, or anything else. Again, Mercury has to do with duality. Amongst metals, quicksilver. Now think of quicksilver or chemical mercury. It's neither a solid nor a liquid. 10. The silver marcasite. Amongst stones, the emerald, agate. And agate is a variety of chalcedony. Red marble, topaz. And those which are of diverse colors. Again, this duality or multiplicity, or being mixed. And various figures naturally, and those that are artificial, as glass, and those which have a color mixed with yellow and green. Amongst plants and trees, the hazel. The hazel wand. Hazel is widely used to make magical wands, and it could be gathered at the day and hour of Mercury. Hazel. And hazel, in some traditions, are associated with knowledge. and wisdom. Five-leaved grass. He's talking about cinquefoil, or a lot of people pronounce it cinquefoil. Cinquefoil, five-finger grass. I love this herb. Five-finger grass or cinquefoil is one of my favorite herbs to use in magic, and it's associated with Mercury here in Agrippa. Cinquefoil or five-finger grass. The herb Mercury, which is toxic or poisonous, by the way. The herb Mercury fumitory, which is a medicinal herb that grows as a weed. Pimpernel. Pimpernel is Pimpinella saxifraga. The powder of this plant was said to close wounds, for which reason it was called self-heal. So pimpernel. Marjoram, parsley, and such as have shorter and less leaves, being compounded of mixed natures and diverse colors. Again, this idea of being mixed. Mercury is sometimes associated as being sexually ambiguous, so it's just Mercury is always quite often associated with duality and polarity. Animals also, as are of quick sense, ingenious, strong, inconstant, swift, and such as become easily acquainted with men, as dogs, apes, foxes, very much associated with Mercury and Agrippa. Think about what we associate a fox as being tricky or cunning, sometimes even deceitful. And that's the thing about Mercury, too. There's that dual aspect of truthfulness and deceit. Weasels. Something about a weasel just seems, cunning or naughty or something, a weasel. The heart. A hart, by the way, is a stag, a male deer. By the way, I apologize about the lighting going in and out and all of that. This is not my typical device that I use. The mule, and all animals that are of both sexes, and those which can change their sex, as the hare, the civet cat, where in the James Freak translation it says civet cat, it means hyena. And such like. Amongst birds, those which are naturally witty, melodious, and inconstant, as the linnet, the nightingale. Nightingales are a bird of Mercury, and with this you can even go into like omens and things. The blackbird, the blackbird, the nightingale, the thrush, the lark, the gnat sapper, the bird calandra or calendar, a kind of lark. The parrot. Now, why would it... The parrot is very much associated with Mercury, the parrot. Why the parrot? I mean, think about it. Think of the multicolored plumage that is often found in parrots, and think of the way they talk. Parrots mimic speech. Parrots will say things. They talk, right? It's a talking bird, a parrot. So parrots... I think it's very important, and I'm very adamant about this in my videos. I think if you use animal bones or anything like that, you need to get it from, an ethical source. Like something that dies a natural death, and, I don't believe in hurting animals for magic. I'm very much opposed to that. It's not necessary. Magic can be extremely effective without it. I don't like doing anything harmful with animals. Absolutely not. But things like feathers, if you have feathers of a parrot, things like that. So the parrot, just think about how parrots communicate. And they speak language. Parrots, very much associated with Mercury, and it makes sense. The pie, it's the magpie. The bird ibis. Now the ibis is associated with Thoth, right? So Mercury. The bird Porphyrio. The bird Porphyrio, a kind of water hen. Porphyrio caeruleus, with deep blue plumage and scarlet bill and legs. So the Porphyrio, the black beetle with one horn. And amongst fish, the fish called Trocheus, which goes into himself. Also the porcontrel for deceitfulness and changeableness. And the fork fish for its industry. The mullet also that shakes off the bait on the hook with his tail. Now, how do you use this? How do you use this? So I'm going to talk about that now. So we're going to get into how to use this with magic. So what I recommend, okay, Mercury is associated amongst other things with divination. How do you make a Mercury lamp? Well, I think that, you just purchase a good oil lamp. I love using lamp magic. I love it. You could put stones in the oil. You could add essential oils to the regular oil. You could use colors. You can do all kinds of things. People often talk about candle magic and candle spells, but lamps are very good to use as well. So what I recommend, I think it's good. I think it's awesome to do magic is like arts and crafts. So first of all, there are lots of things that you can do with this. For one thing, if you go to chapter 33, I'm trying to get there. Chapter 33, Book 1, Chapter 33, you see these different figures of the planets here. So if you go to the 3 books of occult philosophy, Chapter 33, you have these different figures of the planets. And these are also said to be signs that you see in the joints of beasts or, in the knots of trees or whatever associated with the planet. But also I think it's good to use them actively, right? So right here, you have the images of Mercury that you can paint around the bottom. I like to use orange for Mercury. I guess that is my modern magic coming out, my modern lodge magic. But I like to paint the base of it with these characters of Mercury from the 3 books of occult philosophy, Book 1, Chapter 33. Also, if you go to, from the 3 books of occult philosophy, Book 2, Chapter 22, where you have the tables of the planets, the divine names, intelligences, and spirits set over them. You could incorporate this as well. So I love to do like arts and crafts with magic. Get a lamp, paint the characters of Mercury around the base. You have the seal of Mercury that you can paint in a very visible spot around the bottom of it. And then of course you have the seals of the intelligence Tyriel and the spirit Tathathrath. So you have a spirit and an intelligence. So basically you can take the characters of Mercury found in Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy, Book 1, Chapter 33, paint them around the base. And orange is what I like to do. Paint the seal of Mercury right there, the seal of Mercury. This is from the 3 Books of Occult Philosophy, Book 2, Chapter 22, along with the sigil of the intelligence and the spirit. Now, in practical workings, I just like to use the Orphic hymns. Very simple, okay? But you can work with the intelligence. Now, the intelligences and the spirits. Agrippa says that the intelligence is a good spirit, and basically the spirits are evil, or a good spirit and a bad spirit, basically, right? And in modern magic, like derived from the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn and such, this is often called into question, and it's more seen that the intelligence is, well, an intelligent force, and the spirit is more of a blind force. Whatever the case may be, I wouldn't personally call on the spirit without first developing a good relationship with the intelligence. But anyways, you know, paint the bottom of the lamp with the characters of Mercury, paint the seal of Mercury, and the sigil of the intelligence, and also the spirit, if you like. And to this, what I would recommend for this is to add to the oil. This is where it gets pretty cool. To add some of these stones and to add essential oils. Me personally, I wouldn't recommend just putting plant matter into the oil. It can go rancid after a while. But to take stones, what stones? Agate, which is a form of chalcedony, the agate, topaz, red marble. You could buy these stones, and if you're going to put it in the oil, it's good to just wash them with soap and rinse them off, and make sure that don't have any bacteria that could make the oil go rancid. Take your stones, again, agate, red marble, topaz, wash them well, and put them in the oil. And to the oil, you could add a little bit to whatever regular oil you use in your oil lamp. It can just be regular, like, oil for an oil lamp like you buy on Amazon or whatever. But you could add a few drops of hazelnut oil. Hazelnut. Hazel here being corylus, not witch hazel, but like where you get hazelnuts. The genus is corylus. Hazelnut oil you can buy on Amazon or whatever apothecary or Botanica, whatever source, you know. Hazelnut oil, marjoram oil, and my favorite, cinquefoil or 5-finger grass oil. So you put the stones of Mercury in the oil, add a few drops to whatever oil you're using, add a few drops of oils associated with Mercury, and paint the characters and seals of Mercury around it. Work with it at the hour of Mercury. Okay, you're using these powers for divination, for pyromancy. So if you're going to work with this, you know, it's good to consecrate it. Now, for the consecration, again, we're going to the 3 books of occult philosophy. It's very interesting. If you go to book 1 of the 3 books of occult philosophy, chapter 44, there's this chapter 44, the composition of some fumes appropriate to the planets. And remember what we just read about the stones and plants and animals of Mercury? Well, you're going to see it repeated here. What does it say for Mercury? For Mercury, again, I'm reading from the 3 books of occult philosophy. Let's see. Where is it for Mercury? All right. Mercury, take mastic. I love the smell of mastic. Mastic, frankincense, cloves, and the herb cinquefoil, or cinquefoil, 5-finger grass, and the stone agate. All of these things that we just read in the 3 books of occult philosophy. So we have, well, it didn't mention mastic or cloves, but mastic, frankincense. For Mercury, this is the incense of Mercury from Agrippa. This is 16th century magic here. For Mercury, take mastic, frankincense, cloves, and the herb cinquefoil, and the stone agate, and incorporate them all. I do not ever encourage any kind of harming animals or anything, but in this Renaissance text, it says, incorporate them all with the brain of a fox or weasel and the blood of a magpie. But, you don't have to use animal parts. I would not do that. But it's good to note from a historical perspective. But what is Agrippa using here for the incense? Stones, plants, and animals associated with Mercury. It says, for Mercury, take mastic, frankincense, cloves, and the herb cinquefoil, and the stone agates, and incorporate them all with the brain of a fox or weasel and the blood of a magpie. So, cutting out the animal part of that, it's very interesting. If you want a Mercury incense from Cornelius Agrippa in the 16th century, you take mastic, frankincense, cloves, and cinquefoil, or 5-finger grass. Now, personally, I think you can just use frankincense and myrrh and add a little 5-finger grass to it, So, does it need to be consecrated to use? Some people will say absolutely yes. In my opinion, no. I think it's better. But I think at some point you should consecrate the lamp to Mercury for best effects. How do you do that? First of all, timing. I think it's okay. I like to use the planetary hours, but you can light your lamp, and I like to recite the Orphic hymn to Mercury or Hermes. At the hour of Mercury, recite the Orphic hymn to Mercury, light the lamp, burn a little incense. It can just be frankincense and myrrh. And then gaze into the flame. You want all other lights out. You want this flame to be the only light in the room. So turn out the lights. Make sure that there's a blank background, like just a blank wall, because you want your vision to be just focused on the flame, not what's behind it. And if you want to consecrate it, this does not come from any specific tradition. It's just the basic technology of magic that you find in different traditions. You would sprinkle to get rid of impurities, energetic impurities, sprinkle it with holy water, run it through the mercury incense, and anoint with a mercurial oil, and recite, pray to Mercury, the powers of Mercury, to imbue the lamp with power. Very simple. This is just the simple practice of consecrating an item and magic that you find in different traditions. And ceremonial magic, the incense is paramount. Any kind of consecration, you're going to want to really run it through the incense smoke. So for a consecration, for this, you do want to have good astrological magic timing. The good news about Mercury is the swift-footed god. It moves very quickly through the zodiac. Essential dignity. And one of the Patreon videos that I released, I go pretty deeply into explaining astrological timing for magic. That's one of the Patreon videos that I just released on YouTube. But yeah, I just put up a whole bunch on YouTube from my Patreon. It's over a year old. But dang it, what was I saying? Oh, for timing for the consecration, it's good for Mercury to be in Gemini or Virgo, which it rules, or in one of the signs of the air triplicity, which are Libra, Aquarius, or Gemini by night. So the perfect way to do it is to consecrate it with the waxing moon, while Mercury is in Gemini. It's extra strong because not only does Mercury rule Gemini, that's 5 points of essential dignity, but on top of that, if it's at nighttime and it's in Gemini is an air sign, then it gets 3 extra points of essential dignity by triplicity. Now, if you don't really understand the difference in essential dignities, again, I would refer you to my YouTube. If you go to my YouTube channel, I made an hour, 2 hour long video on astrological timing. So that's just the consecration. So in a nutshell, and then after consecrated especially, you can just work with it anytime. I still like to use the hour of Mercury, recite the Orphic hymn to Mercury, light the lamp, gaze into the flame. Now scrying takes patience to develop. But in a nutshell, you can buy an oil lamp, buy some just regular oil for the oil lamp. You know, the good thing about these oils that you just buy for this is they don't leave a whole lot of soot or residue. To this, you can take agate, which is a form of chalcedony. You take agate or topaz, red marble. These are stones of Mercury and Agrippa. I would wash them with soap. You add these stones of Mercury, and on top of the regular oil, you could add a little bit of hazelnut oil, add a little bit of marjoram oil, 5-finger grass oil to this, and you've painted the characters of Mercury, the seal of Mercury, sigils of Mercury, and at the hour of Mercury, just light the lamp, recite the Orphic hymn to Mercury, and do your scrying. Scrying can take a little time and patience to develop. You're probably not going to develop the skill overnight. It can take a little time, but it's a very useful skill to have. And you'll find that if you can scry in fire, then you'll just as easily be able to scry in a black mirror or anything else. So with this, you're doing scrying, which you don't need any kind of astrological forces for, but you're adding the power of astrology and these spiritual forces to your scrying. You might find that you get really interesting results. You know, I did a video a long time ago about another type, about a type of black mirror, with the divine names written around it and all of that. So it's pretty interesting. You know, yes, you can just scry in a bowl of water. You don't need all of this. But working with Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy, you're really bringing in these celestial powers as well. The PGM, the Greek magical papyri, a collection of spells from late antiquity, often combines scrying with these spiritual forces as well. So there's a magical precedent for calling in astrological or spiritual forces for your scrying that is actually very ancient and definitely part of the broader ceremonial magical tradition. So that is how to make a divination lamp of mercury. So, yep, that is pretty much it, you know. Like I said, you put the characters of Mercury around the base, paint it in orange, paint the seal of Mercury. I don't like the base to have any kind of texture because it's harder to paint. Fill it with regular oil, put in some stones of Mercury. Instead of plant matter that can decompose, instead put essential oils of some herbs of Mercury, and then light it at the hour of Mercury, recite the Orphic hymn to Mercury, maybe burn some incense, and gaze into the flame and really get comfortable. But be careful not to fall asleep because of the fire hazard. And it's really that simple. And when you get to a time when Mercury is very well placed, that is a good time to really consecrate the lamp. And you can compare results before and after consecration. Some people would say you need to wait till you consecrate. But since this form of magic does use astrological timing, if you want to go ahead, you can go ahead. So, but I would wait really till the proper time. Because astrological magic, as we are practicing it here, is based on the movement of the heavens. It's not just something in your mind or imagination. There's something external found in nature, in the supercelestial realm. For timing, see if you can get Mercury with the moon waxing and the sun and moon free of affliction. Try to get Mercury in Virgo, or better yet, Gemini, because that's bringing in the triplicity as well. And basically at the hour of Mercury, the hours are more important than the days. Really, the hour is what's essential. And consecrate it. Run it through the incense smoke of Mercury. The recipes, the sigils, all of this is found in Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy. The sigils are found in Book 1, Chapter 33, and the seal of Mercury and all of that is found in the 3 books of occult philosophy, Book 2, Chapter 22, and then, what was the other thing? And then the incenses even. You have that in Book 1, Chapter 44. So you have this whole formulary. So what you're doing is, you know, a lot of people, I don't even think people really read it that much. But a lot of people, if they read it, they don't really put it into practice. This is taking Agrippa's 3 books of occult philosophy, written in the 1500s. You know, it's awesome text, but it's really making it practical. So I recommend people try it out, experiment. It's really cool to do like arts and crafts with magic, right? It's good to have simple forms of magic. Like I talked about in my last video, dealing with elemental forces, magic can be very simple, but, you know, at the same time, it's a really cool experience to get a little bit more elaborate with your magic. So that is my video for today. We've read Agrippa, the 3 books of occult philosophy, chapter 29. We read through that. So that's my 29th video working through Agrippa. And then also talking about putting this into practice and making a divination lamp. So thank you everyone so much for watching my video. Again, if you would like to support this work that I'm doing, then please consider subscribing to my Patreon, and that's where the other half of my videos are anyways. So please consider supporting my Patreon. I really appreciate those that are subscribed to that. And thank you very much, and I will see y'all in the next video. Alright, so have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.